I hope everybody had a safe and a blessed new year, first and foremost. I did. Me and Rachel and Mercy were laying in the bed watching a movie. Major came into the room at about 11:55. We watched the ball drop. This time of year is a difficult time for me. 20 years ago, tomorrow, I lost my mother. 20 years ago, tomorrow, my mother walked out of her house and never came home, right? The next time that I seen her after she walked out of the house and told me I'll be right back in about a half an hour, 45 minutes. I'm still waiting. 20 years ago, tomorrow, my world was turned absolutely upside down. So let me give you a little bit of context, right? And this is something that on the channel I've discussed before, right? So there's some of what I'm gonna say, some of y'all have heard before, some y'all haven't. So October of 2004, I decided to rob my sister's boyfriend at the time. Um, he was getting money in the streets. I decided to take something that didn't belong to me. I justified by saying that this man had this type of lifestyle around my sister and my nephew. But that's not why I did what I did. I did what I did out of greed, right? I had been home 2 years from the penitentiary from doing my first bid as a juvenile and coming home at the age of 22. At this time, I had got my first apartment, got my first car, first job, all those firsts that so many of us achieve and accomplish at a younger age. I was achieving that a little bit later because of decisions and consequences that I had. So this cold October day, I got this idea and I said, you know what? I'm going to rob this dude. And that's what I did. And when it came out in the open, like everything does, right? If it don't come out in the rinse, it'll come out in the wash, you know. So it comes out. And one thing about me, I've been a lot of things. I'm not really a liar, right? I feel like people that lie, they fear the truth being known, right? Or they fear the person they have to lie to. You know what I mean? So it was always, it might have been like an ego pride thing with me. So I didn't really lie when it came to stuff like that. If I did something in the street, um, somebody asked me, be like, yeah, absolutely. And whatever consequences came with it, they came. So when I was confronted and asked, was this you? I said, yep. My mom at the time got upset. I took it as her taking my sister's side in this whole thing, right? I didn't see it for what it really was. I didn't see that she was disappointed in me, right? I didn't see it that she was let down because I had came home from jail and I was home at this time for about 18 months and I was doing good. This is the longest stretch that I had had since, 13, 12 years old without getting in trouble. I was doing good. Like I said, I just got my own apartment, got myself a car, all those little things. And nothing that I had was gotten the fast way. Everything that I got I got from hard work. You know, I'd walk to my work, and my work, I worked in an iron, in a forge. It's a very dirty, laborious, hard job. You know, I'd come home filthy. It's a very dangerous and hard job. You know, I worked hard for that little bit of money to get my apartment, get my car. And my mom was very proud of me at this time, right? Until I decided to make that decision. So when she confronted me and my mom asked me, she said, "Yo, do you do this?" I said, "Yep." You know, she scolded me. She told me, like, "What are you doing? You know, you have no business doing this. Why would you do this?" And like I said, I took it as her taking my sister's side. So I stopped talking to her. I said, "You know what? You're taking my sister's side," and just stepped off. Stopped talking to her. So Thanksgiving came. I didn't go see my mom. Her birthday came December 13th. I didn't go see her. Didn't wish her a happy birthday. None of that. Christmas came. I didn't wish her a Christmas. I didn't go to her house. None of that stuff. Thanksgiving, we ended up bumping into each other. So January 1st, 2004, something was in my stomach, in my gut. I had a feeling. And, you know, I like to think those feelings that I get, that's God speaking to me. You know, that's God letting me know this is what's going on. You know, take heed, pay attention, antennas up. You know, that's what I like to think it is when I get those gut feelings. I don't like to be arrogant and think, you know, I'm a fortune teller or anything like that. I like to understand that that's God speaking to me, right? So January 2nd comes. About 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I get dressed and I decide to go see my mom. As I'm walking onto her porch, she's on her way coming out of the door. And I see her. And I say, "Mom, I need to talk to you." She said, "Hold on. I got to go pick up my friend. I'll be right back." I'm still waiting 20 years later. The next thing I know, I get a call telling me I need to come home. And it was like I was having an out of body experience, right? And I see all the chaos erupting outside of my house, my mother's house, actually. I see all the chaos erupting outside of my mother's house. I see my little sister, who at the time was about 14 years old. I see her hysterically crying. I see my little brother. I see my other little sister, who at the time, you know, they were very young, you know, 6 and 8 years old, right around that age. I see them crying. Here I come. I'm the big brother. I'm supposed to make everything right, right? I'm the protector of the household. And they tell me, "Yo, the police were just here and they said Mommy's dead." So I figure, okay, let's go to the hospital, see what's going on, right? We get to the hospital. And everything was confirmed. And then 10 minutes after they confirm, they tell me somebody's got to identify my mother's body. I was there with my younger siblings. There was no way at all that I was going to allow them to do that. I didn't know much at that time, but I knew that what I was about to witness and what I was about to do was going to change the course of my life. That I knew instantly. And I remember walking down, you know, the coroner's office, the mortuary was down in the basement, right? And I remember taking the elevator down, and I remember walking. It was very quiet, sterile. And we get into the room, and there was like a corner you had to go around. And I was tiptoeing once I got in that room because I knew my mother was right around that corner. And the corner had told me, we're going to go inside this room and your mother's going to be there. I didn't know what I was expecting, but I could not be prepared for what I would see. And I tiptoed around that corner, almost like there was a cage lion on the other side of it, right? And I'm tiptoeing, and I take a break, and I'm building up the courage, and I'm breathing hard, and then I tiptoe, and I'm like bending to look around the corner without breaking the corner. And then I finally make it around the corner. And what do I see? I see somebody laying on that metal slab with a sheet over them. And from where I'm standing, I'm closer to the feet than I am to the head. So the sheet is sticking up a little bit because it's over her feet. All right. And then I slowly make my way up to essentially what would be bedside. I still remember every single detail about that incident 20 years later. The sheet was stiff with starch, so it told me like it was a brand new sheet. There was blood where the head and face would have been underneath the sheet. And I remember just being scared to pull the sheet back. And I knew I wasn't going to have the courage to pull the sheet back. So they also had a little tray table to the side. And on that tray table was my mother's jewelry. She had a necklace, and it had a heart pendant. And on that pendant was laser engraved a picture of her and her two sisters. And they called themselves the good, the bad, and the ugly. On one side, it had the faces. On the back side, it had the words, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I look and I make out her necklace. And I seen her ring was there, her watch. Her pendant doesn't look the way it always does. It was usually a flat, heart, straight like a piece of paper. Today, it was curved in half. The two ends of the heart were almost touching itself. And I remember looking at it and thinking to myself, why is that like that? I grabbed it, put it in my palm, and held on to it. And I remember the coroner telling me, you can't take that right now, but we will give you her belongings. And I just remember telling him, well, I'm taking this with me. I'm not letting this go. And he proceeded to pull the sheet back. And there was my mother in a physical form. It didn't look very much like her. My mother was killed in a car accident, a head-on accident. Her head was split open. You could see they tried to clean her up as best as they could. Still didn't look like her, though. Her neck was swollen, I remember. And it looked a little funny, her neck. It just didn't look natural or normal. The coroner told me, he said, take your time. You can spend some time with her. If you'd like to give her a kiss, if you'd like to give her a hug, feel free to. Never touched her. Not then, not at her funeral. For me, I seen that that was my mother. That was her in a physical form. That wasn't my mother, though. And leaving that hospital, my life slowly but surely began to fall apart. Those were some of the worst days of my life. 20 years later, still not an easy day. So, with that being said, if you get anything out of this video, please take away that life is very short. The ones that you care about and you love, let them know just how much you care about them and just how much you love them. Because one thing I promise you is that tomorrow isn't promised. Here I am, 20 years later, and I'm on the verge of also losing my father. I'll be lucky to have 3 to 6 more months with him, right? And I just started talking to him after 10 years of not speaking. I've dealt with a lot of loss this past year. My baby sister, my grandmother, friends. I thank you guys for listening to this. I think this is one of those videos that is more for me than it is for anybody else. I've found that this channel is a form of therapy for me. I thank you guys for providing me with this outlet. Those that you love, those that you care about, tell them just how much you love them and tell them just how much you care about. I thank you guys. Remember to be kind, loving, and patient. Have a blessed day.